Yo, welcome back to another episode of Taylor Talk Celtics with me, your boy Adam Taylor. I'm joined by my homie, compadre, co-host in crime, Mr. Billy Calabrese. What's popping, Billy?
What's up? It's Christmas in
Yeah,
August.
yeah, I guess so. I mean, I'm not one for like diving into the schedule release, so forgive my lack of enthusiasm here. But that's what we're doing right now. We're diving straight into the NBA. The Celtics' new schedule dropped roughly 5 minutes ago now. We've got the full slate of games with the opening night being against the Philadelphia 76ers. We're going to go through, not game by game, because I just don't see the point in doing that, but we're going to go through and look for back-to-back stretches, long road stretches, long home game stretches, where we think will be defining runs during the season, where we think we could look at some trap games during the season, some scheduled losses, and we'll go through it that way so we can just get a bigger picture of how this season's going to go from a flow standpoint. Billy, I'm going to let you jump off. We'll start just with the opening weeks of October because that's like a nice 6 game stretch in October from the 22nd to the 31st. And then we'll start moving month by month and then looking at the stretches as we go along.
Yeah, I even want to add just the first in there just because of that stretch. That is a 7-game stretch that essentially we can end up like 2-5. I mean, that is just a brutal. I mean, I don't want to do wins, losses all the way down, but if you're just looking at the roster, you're thinking, well, Houston's good. They'll probably beat us. Cleveland's good. They'll probably beat us. Detroit's good. Maybe we could steal the New York game. The Philly game seemed like a split. The only cupcake in there is New Orleans, and who knows what that team's going to look like because we might have a Zion there.
So we can start with the Philly game. I put this out on Twitter a moment ago. Nick Nurse is out in the UK right now. So he was on UK radio yesterday talking about Embiid, saying he doesn't expect Embiid to be back by the start of training camp, which to me then tells us what is going on outside. Bear with me.
Well, while Adam does that, I'll still talk to you guys. The biggest thing with even no Embiid, okay, cool. I was just going to say, even with no Embiid, I was telling the audience that, like, Philly kind of has a better roster if it's Paul George, Maxey, McCain's back. Like, that's still a competitive game, even without
Embiid.
But,
like, Paul George underwent surgery like a month ago, so there's no guarantee you're going to have Paul George. So there's a chance that you start this season off with a game against a Philly team missing both of its best players. And that could be a really good thing for the Celtics, obviously, but it could also give us a little bit of false hope. But yeah, I think that's going to be a fun game to start with. A rivalry game gets the game off. As you said, then it's kind of like a bit of a stretch. You're away on a 3-game road trip straight away. New York, Detroit, New Orleans. You move on to Cleveland and then Philly. The reason I kind of like went quiet then is because I'm thinking to myself, can you even come away from those 3 games with a win? New York's going to be a contending team. Detroit looked way improved last year. Adding that spacing around Cade Cunningham really unlocked a lot of his game, unlocked a lot of what they're trying to do. Clear, like, physical presence. They've got a very distinct style of play. And then you look at New Orleans, as you said, you just don't know who's going to show up. Is Zion going to be healthy? You've got a bunch of injury concerns there, but there's a chance that they could still win. So you could go, there's a chance here that, assuming George plays in game 1, which I doubt, but if he does, there's a chance you open up 0-4.
Yeah, I think best case scenario is like a 1-3, but like even something like New Orleans, not only is it a road game, but that's a team that doesn't have their draft pick next year. They're playing for the playoffs. Like, they're trying to win. They're not going to just be like, oh, we're tanking already in October. Like, that's a team that really believes naively that they are a playoff team. They believe it so much so that they traded their next year's pick.
Yeah, and this is why you kind of have to believe that they're going to come in with a lot of confidence and they're going to come in believing that they're going to be capable of winning. And it's tough, right? Because then you have to sell yourself on, well, we don't believe that they're as good as what they believe they are. But if they win, then it's because maybe they are. And if the Celtics lose, I mean, if the Celtics win, then was it really a win in the first place? Do you know what I mean? It's a tough sell either way.
And a lot of the thing is let's be honest, like, teams are going to want to get their, like, clapback at the Celtics. Like, they see the Celtics as weak. They see the Celtics as beatable. There's no team that's going into Boston being like, oh, man, we're playing the defending champs. Like, nobody thinks that anymore. Nobody thinks that, like, we're some kind of juggernaut. Everybody wants to kind of get payback. Like, all those times we beat teams by 30, 40, 50 points, every team is going to be looking to get payback.
And that's good because the best time of the Celtics are at the best is when their backs against the wall. We've seen it time and time again. When you start underestimating what a Celtics team can do, is usually when they come and whoop your ass. And I think that's going to be the kind of narrative of this season is how often can the Celtics disprove the narrative that they're going to be on a losing record or a .500 team? How many times can they be that trap game for other teams like New York coming into Boston or Boston at New York, said the second game of the season? Now, it's too early for a trap game on the 24th of October. But then if you go a bit further down the regular season to the next time that Boston are at New York, if we just scroll down a little bit, they'll have New York at home in December. And then we don't see them again until the next season. Sorry, the next year. Sorry, 2026. You have them at home again in February. And then when are you back? And you're not back in New York until next April. Now, that could be, you see, it's too late for a trap game then either because it's the end of the season. But you get where I'm coming from, right? Like, there's going to be some of these contending teams, especially out in the East. Let me go back to the top of the schedule, where you're a potential trap game for them because they're going to probably look at you, especially assuming the Celtics are like a lower on the Eastern Conference rankings than where we would like them to be, where the Celtics can come in and spoil somebody's day. And I feel like that's going to be the type of team this is now for this year, is where they're coming in just trying to spoil people's day.
Yeah, like I said, even like because it's so early in the season, the Utahs, the Washingtons, they're going to be like, hey, you know what? We still have a chance. This season isn't lost yet. You're like, everybody has hope right now. So that is really where we're going to see the opposite end of the spectrum where like we want to play spoilers to some of these contenders, the Clevelands, the New Yorks. But I really think these bottom feeders are going to come at us. Like I'm looking at Chicago. I'm looking at Brooklyn. I'm looking at even Indiana. Like they lost Turner. They have Halliburton out. What is that going to look like?
So let's move on. We'll talk and just look at the schedule as a whole, right? Because we don't want to go game by game. We'll be here for hours, and to be quite honest with you, I don't want to be. So when we look at it, let's just go through now month by month and look at where we got stretches. So it's a bit of a tough one for the Celtics where we have gone a bit too high, where you've got 4 road games in the first 7, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Sorry, 4 road games in the first 6. Only 2 at home in October. You move on to November. You have a 3-game home stretch, 3 games on the road, and then 2 back at home, 1 on the road, 1 at home, but it's Brooklyn, so it's local. And then a nice little 3-game home stretch before back on the road for 2, back home. And we can kind of stop there. So November's quite a bit of travel, to be honest with you. I mean, you'd expect that. But home game against Houston, for me, that's a loss. Home game against Utah, maybe that's a win. Washington, you're probably going to get the dub there too. And then probably back-to-back losses at Orlando.
That's a tough weekend to just spend in Orlando Friday through Sunday. Yeah. I don't see how you come out of there even 1-1.
Yeah, back-to-back losses. I've got that down as if they split that back-to-back there, well, not back-to-back, but you know what I mean. If they split those 2 games there, that's a win for me, especially on the road. From there, you fly out to Philly. That's a TV game. Yeah, okay, whatever there. None of this is counting me as like an important stretch. It's just a bit of a grind, right? Going two games in Orlando to then fly from Orlando to Philly, assuming that by then they've got one of Paul George or Embiid back, if not both. That could be a long ass 3-game stretch. And then you go to Brooklyn. I feel confident about them against Brooklyn either way. But then you're straight back up against Orlando, then Detroit, and then you close out with the Timberwolves and the Cavs. Like that's a rough stretch in March. I mean, like, where are we now? We're like so many games in, and I've probably got them down for 3 wins, maybe 4.
Yeah, it's single digits. And like I said, it does seem like the early part of the schedule is the heavy part.
It's brutal.
And it's a sledgehammer, man, because it's a lot of road games, and it's a lot of teams that either are going to be playoff teams or expect to be playoff teams. Like, even having the Lakers coming up early in December, like, that's not fun.
No, it's going to be brutal, dude. I mean, look, you come off the Cavs, you have a day off, then you get New York. That's probably another loss. Then you've got Washington. That's a win. Lakers, Doncic. Okay, so the one thing with the Lakers is, right, I don't care who is on each roster. I will always expect the Celtics to be competitive against the Lakers. I expect them to find a gear that they don't find very often because it's against the Lakers, especially when it's in the TD Garden. So I'm not saying
I will say it's kind of dirty though on the second half of a back-to-back though.
Oh yeah, they did dirty, but it is what it is, right? Like there's an agenda out there for the Lakers to be good at the moment, and everybody's pushing it. So okay, let's say it's another loss, right? So then you got Toronto. Toronto are going to be okay. I don't have them as like an incredible team in the East this year. I don't have them as a bad team. They're rebuilding. It is what it is. Miami, I'm not too scared of Miami, to be quite honest with you. I think they've had a nice strong off season. I think Kasparas Jakusionis is a really good pickup for them, but it's going to take time for him to fill that playmaking void that they've had for a few years. I think Norman Powell was a strong addition for them. He's going to give them some additional scoring, take some of that shot creation and shot making off of Tyler Hero's shoulders. They're a tough team to beat. They're not impossible to beat. I think the Celtics team can give that Miami team a real run, right? I think they're both in that 40 to 45 win kind of threshold this year. They're both kind of very similar teams in terms of what they're expected to achieve. So that'll be a fun game. See, once you get into December's actually lighter. Indiana's not as scary because they've got no Tyrese. Still going to be a really good team. No, they execute really well. Portland aren't scary, really. Just incredible defensive team. So actually, to be fair, I think you have a bit of a shitty start to December, but it gets quite light.
Yeah, and it all depends on the cup, which I don't assume we qualify for. But like that's a chance to play like Orlando again or something like that. But besides the cup games, which we really won't know what they are, December, after we get past the Lakers, it's not the ring of death. It's not a bad stretch until all the way up until really, in my opinion, we get into the new year and we're at the Clippers.
You see, so the one thing that gets me is you've got this whole stretch here, like this whole road trip. This is the type of stuff that first needs pointing out when we do this type of stuff, right? Is you've got a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 game road swing. Indiana, Portland, Utah, Sacramento. That's not too bad. You've got one in the East, and then you head out west for a 4-game stretch. That's a tough run, especially coming back where you have a day off and then you're in Chicago. So the time zone shift there is going to be rough. Flying back from LA, getting home, having one night off, and then being back in to face Chicago, then Denver, then Toronto, then San Antonio. There's no recovery time there. And I think that's one of the things where you need to factor in, like, there's a lot of young guys on this team that are going to, at this point in the season, the grind's going to be catching up to them. And then there's a lot of dudes that have never really had significant NBA minutes where their bodies won't be prepared for the additional usage. Josh Minot's an idea there where I think he's going to get regular playing time and he's not really used to that. So that stretch there could be quite a defining stretch for the Celtics just in terms of seeing which guys can sustain the NBA as a part of a rotation, right? Like obviously Jaylen Brown's going to be fine. Derek White's going to be fine. Pritchard, Sam Hauser. Those guys are going to be fine. They've been there, done that, got the T-shirt. It's cool. It's the younger dudes, the Hugo Gonzalez, the Baylor Scheinman. Dudes that have, like, Baylor was in and around the NBA last season, but he didn't have to hold a role while on such a grueling like turn of games. Do you know what I mean? 5 games on the road to come back and get one night off after being in LA. And then to be back in a game every other day situation for the next few days is rough. And then that situation there then kind of culminates here in a back-to-back against Toronto and San Antonio. Your body doesn't get a chance to recover and acclimate. That's good for me. This whole stretch here from like the 26th of December, which English people are called Boxing Day. So from like Boxing Day all the way down to like the 12th of January looks absolutely grueling.
And I think that's an important part of the schedule to highlight because that's usually around the time of year the coaches stop tinkering with lineups or rotations. I always call like the first 30 games kind of like the experimental era, especially in the Brad Stevens system. He would always kind of tinker with lineups, find stuff that he would set. Maybe somebody would play their way out of a rotation. Somebody would play their way in. I think by the time you get to that 34, 35 game mark, you kind of know what you have and you're playing. Everybody knows their role. Everybody plays their minutes and you kind of earned your spot or you lost it. So I think that's a key because that's probably the team that goes on that road trip, that rotation is probably what we'll see for the rest of the year.
Yeah, that's what we're getting into the point now where you might have 1 or 2 guys at the end of that rotation that will get dropped later as we get deeper into the year. Maybe Mazzulla goes with 10 dudes instead of 8, right? And obviously, that's if we're expecting it to be a playoff team or whatever. But for sure, man, I think that once you get down to at least this back-to-back here, like here, we're going to see quite a defined rotation. I'd expect it to open up a little bit here just to get some extra guys some minutes to give guys some breathing space while they readjust. But by the time we're here, like the rotation is what it is at that point. And obviously now we're getting into trade season again because we're entering that mid-January section all the way through to early February. They're going to be pushing guys just like they did this past season with what's his name? I forgot his name all of a sudden. It's gone straight out my head. Jaden Springer. They're going to be giving him. They're going to be pushing some guys with minutes that probably won't be around much longer because they want to get to around the early part of February, around here, the 1st, 3rd, and 4th, coming up to that trade deadline, which I think this show will be on the 5th, where they're trying to get some guys, like some trade value to try and flip some dudes. So I'd really expect to see like 1 or 2 guys really balling out and being featured for the simple fact of they don't want them there. Does that make sense?
100%. That's where you would showcase a guy that you would want to trade and maybe try to get some value from. And I do think at that point, the big man rotation would have worked itself out. Like, you know, it's going to be a war because I don't know who's better between Garza, Queta. I mean, if Tillman's playing, whatever it may be, like those 4 guys that are all going for that Boucher, they're all going for that spot. And is Garza going to be able to kind of take that spot from Queta? That's what we really won't know until about 30, 35 games in.
And this is the problem. Like, I was saying this online. I said this to you on an episode that we recorded and didn't end up posting, was like, the big rotation is a huge question for me because of the lack of floor spacing there and because of how Missoula's pretty much consistently and exclusively leaned on a 5-8 lineup with big stretching the floor around the perimeter, and the lack of creation at the big spot and the lack of perimeter shooting. It's going to be really interesting to see. And I think that by the time we get to this same stretch here that we were just talking about, like this whole stretch from like the 26th of December all the way down to the 17th of January when that road trip ends it ends actually on the 19th against Detroit. So from like the 26th of December to the 19th of January, not only do I think we start to see a bit more of a defined rotation with 1 or 2 guys probably having their numbers plumped up, but I think we actually start to see what Missoula is going to be doing with that front court rotation in terms of a systematic approach. That's when we're going to know, are they going to lean on double big? If they are, how are they going to make that work when you don't have any floor spacing at the 4 or the 5? Because neither of those guys are going to be able to shoot the ball consistently. How are they going to lean on short roll actions? How are they going to lean on the dunker spot to provide spacing? They used to use Drew Holiday there a bunch, but Drew's gone. Will Derek White take that now? Is that something? There's going to be a bunch of questions that will start to be answered in that stretch. As the rotation becomes locked in, so will the systematic approach offensively and defensively.
And there was a report today, it wasn't from any of the Boston sources, so take it with a grain of salt, that they want Pritchard to start and Simons to be the scorer off the bench. I just can't buy that there would be any kind of decision made on that in August before there's even a camp.
Before training camp, yeah.
It's absolutely insane. I mean, I get these guys want their clicks, but it's really lazy to say that.
I think as well that there's a world where Pritchard starts the season as that guy. But again, as we get into the late December, like into the really deep into the weeds of January, especially, we'll probably see Simons put in that spot because you want to showcase what he can do, because the idea is to be able to flip him for some assets. He's an expiring contract. He's young enough that he's going to develop more. And you can try and, like, if he's putting up numbers, if he's putting up 20, 24, 25 a game with some decent performances where he doesn't look like an absolute turnstile on defense, you're probably going to be able to get at least something back in return for that. Do you know what I mean? On the trade market. So, of course, you're going to want to put him in the shop window in that, like, nitty-gritty late December, mid-January, like, grind to showcase him and try and build that trade value up, at which point Pritchard would likely slide into a 6-man role, and then you try and break back out of that once you get past that trade deadline, regardless of whether Simons is still on the roster or not.
Yeah, it just doesn't seem fair to Pritchard because you're going to bump him to starter, then you're going to bump him back when you're showcasing Simons, then you're going to bump him to starter when Simons is gone, and then when Tatum comes back next year, you're going to bump him to 6-man. Like, where's the consistency in his role? Like, I just don't see that you kind of jerk a player around like that. He's so good at the 6-man role. That's where he thrives. Like, why would you want a starting backcourt of White and Pritchard? Like, I just don't get that.
And that's been my stance on it too. Like, why take away the guy that was the best in the NBA at this specific thing to then be like, yo, go and do this instead? Like, no, you pull him in the spot where he's at his best. I understand the sentiment that he's earned an opportunity to be a starter in the NBA. I'm completely fine with that. But the counter argument is, well, you still do what's best for the team. And if what's best for the team is Pritchard in that 6-man role, then that's what you need to do. And that's the end of that type of thing. But I'm okay with it. I think that no matter what, he's going to have a good season. I think he's going to be quite a featured a member of the offense. Getting back to this, we're into January now. So let's just stop a minute. We've got a free game road swing in October. Then there's a 3-game road swing to start November. And then you've got a 2-game road swing. So we've got 2. So we've got 3-game here, 3-game here. So 1 in each month. Then you get into December. They're on the road for a 5-game road swing, come back for 4 games, go away again for 4 games. So that's a brutal stretch. Like, it's a 5 there, back for 4, away for 4. So some long road swings, which takes us into the middle of January. As I said, now we're getting closer to the trade deadline. We're going to start to see some dudes get minutes that you probably wouldn't expect to have the level of minutes that what they've got. You come down through, easy little road trip here, Brooklyn, Chicago. It's not going to be anything season defining. It's also not going to be heavy on travel. Then you got a 4-game home swing against Portland, Atlanta, Sacramento, and Milwaukee. That's actually quite a nice little road swing just in terms of opponent talent level. I think Milwaukee will be tough. I think Giannis is primed for a really big season. But outside of that, Sacramento don't really scare me. Atlanta are what they are. It'd be fun to see Kristaps back at the TD. I'd like to hope that he'd get a good reception. You know, I've really liked some Trae Young chance to bleed over from New York as well. I'm not going to lie. 2-game road swing here. This is rough. Dallas and Houston.
I mean, if
scheduled
AD's
losses,
still playing,
bro. Scheduled losses.
Yeah, you got to put those as L's unless AD's out, which it's February. That's a possibility.
And then you're like, okay, you get Miami, New York, Chicago, whatever, and now you're back to a brutal road swing again, another West Coast swing, and this is rough. This is Golden State, Lakers, Phoenix, Denver. There's a world, especially with the version of the Celtics, that will go on this trip, assuming they don't make a big deal at the trade deadline, which, to be perfectly honest, there's a chance that they do. But, you know, assuming the roster is how it is right now, this road swing here is going to be rough as fuck. Golden State lost. Lakers lost. Phoenix, actually, maybe. I don't know. Denver, probably a loss. Like, it's just going to be a tough stretch. Now, is there a world where the Celtics can win a couple of these games and come away feeling really good about themselves? Of course there is. We don't know what this team's going to be by that point of the year. We don't know how well they're going to perform. And, you know, we all saw the Isaiah Thomas era Celtics that were meant to be losing all these games, start winning. And we don't know whether, like, there's someone on this team that's going to have a similar type of breakout. But just from basketball on paper, looking at roster to roster, that stretch there is going to be brutal.
Yeah, that one terrifies me. I thought it was interesting how they broke up the West Coast trip this year. Usually they like to bunch Golden State with the Lakers and the Clippers and Phoenix, and then do like Sacramento, Denver, etc. This year they actually made it kind of easier on the front end, where the only tough team is the Clippers, and then you just get a hell. I mean, that is a week from hell right there, going from Golden State to LA to Phoenix to Denver. I'm kind of excited to be doing a part of the road trip in the middle there. I'll definitely do those Lakers and Phoenix games, but I'm not expecting to get any dubs out of those.
No, me neither. Worst part is you get back again a day's rest and you straight back to it against Brooklyn. A few days off, then over to Philly. It's not even a few days off because February is a shorter month anyway. And then it's okay. Then, you know, it's Philly, Milwaukee travels all right. You got Charlotte at home. That Dallas game there will be interesting, whether or not, I know you kind of made a joke a moment ago that went under the rug. If AD's playing or not by that point in the season will tell us a lot. And then a little road swing here. It's nothing terrible. Cleveland, San Antonio, Oklahoma. Okay, whatever.
I mean, that's 3 losses. That's just 3 losses.
I mean, yeah, there's 3 losses, but the travel isn't awful. I mean, San Antonio, you think that's a scheduled loss? I think Wemby will just have a field day against the lack of size.
Yeah, I would love to see how we guard Wemby without our guys. Like, I mean, what are you gonna do? Like he
I
played
think
zone.
I think you just play zone or just help off him and be like, yo, he can't score enough to beat us on his own. Let's lock up everybody else. That's a tough one. Yeah.
That's gonna be really fun. And then Fox too. I mean, if we're having this Pritchard White backcourt, Fox is gonna go off too. Fox and Harper is a very strong backcourt. And
The perimeter
really...
defense drop off this year for the Celtics has been one of the most under discussed aspects of the roster construction.
Period. Nobody's mentioning it. And it's going to be brutal. I mean, we might be in the bottom 5 defensively this year.
It depends. I think a lot's going to fall on Jalen. And I've said this a few times over the summer is you need to figure out what you want from Jalen and what you're willing to live without from Jalen. In the sense of you cannot ask him to be the number 1 defensive option on the point of attack, to be the number 1 offensive guy in terms of usage rate, play finishing and scoring, and to be the number 1 play creator on the team. If you ask him to do all of that and shoulder all of that for the entire year, don't be upset when it gets ugly midway through the year because he's starting to gas out. That's not on him. That's on the lack of help around him. And I think that, one of the things you might ask him to kind of take a bit of a back foot off is, hey, save some of your point of attack games for like the big games, like those West Coast road swings, or when you have a big team come into the TD, and the rest of the time we'll lean on a bit more of a team-centric defense. That's kind of where I'm at, because other than him and D White, like, where is the perimeter defense? You lost so much, and JT was such an important part as a help guy, a gap helper. Once people broke free of that initial point of attack defense, to lose him because of his size and length as well, there's been a huge defensive drop off on this team.
And it's nothing against Jalen. He's a great one-on-one defender, but he's such a weak team defender.
Off ball.
It's just not. His off ball. I mean, he was really bad for the past few years, and he's improved at it every year. Like, there was a point where he was like, I'd call him the worst off ball defender in the league because he loves to get caught ball watching. He just always gets, gets out of his spot. And he's gotten a lot better at that. And now this guy's going to have to be like essentially an anchor. It's going to be, I think we're going to be a good offensive team still, depending on a lot of things, but definitely a better offensive team than defense. But yeah, I definitely see between 25 and 30 ranking in defensive rating.
Which leads us on. So if we go past these games here, and then we got Washington, Phoenix, Golden State. That's a bit of a rough home stretch here, Phoenix, Golden State. That's tough because it's 2 tough teams, probably 2 losses. Away at Memphis, which is whatever at this point, and then you come back for another tough road stretch, mini OKC in Atlanta. Like, that's rough. You're probably going to drop those. So, like, if you go from the middle of March, even from March itself, right? If you go March itself, like Philly, okay, let's say that's like, let's ignore Philly. If you want to class that as a loss, fine. Milwaukee will probably be a loss. Dallas will probably be a loss. Cleveland lost. San Antonio, Oklahoma. So that's what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 losses out of 7 games. 8 with Phoenix, 9 with Golden State, 10 with Mini, 11 with Oklahoma, 12 with Atlanta, and then 13 with Atlanta. So you could be looking at a 13 loss month in March, theoretically, right? There's a world where it's not going to be that bad, and I don't actually expect it to be that bad. Like, that's a very doomer outlook on it. But shit, man, there's a world where it could actually be a 13 last month. That's a rough,
or worse. I mean, that's towards the end of the year. If Jalen's kind of banged up after playing, 60 games, you might shut him down early, and you really are in for it.
And then you move past that, right? And then it's like, okay, so where did we get to? We got to Atlanta here. You got a 4-game road swing here. And then by here, no one gives a shit. Seeding's locked in. The Celtics are either in the play-in, they've just squeaked into the postseason, or they're out of it completely. Now, the other part is here that we didn't speak of when we were talking about that road swing in January, from the middle of December here all the way through to the start of January. This will also be a good indicator of whether the Celtics decide to shut shit down. How things go from December 26th through, I'd say, Feb 1st will tell you a lot about whether this team decides to pull the plug. And obviously, the trade deadline will also be a big indicator there. I personally can't see Jalen, Derrick, and Joe Mazzulla being okay with pulling the plug on a season. And Peyton Pritchard, I think they're too highly competitive to even think about that being an option. But if you're losing at like a serious rate, at some point you need to pull the plug and look at that draft pick. I don't expect that to happen, but I do understand it's been a talking point out there that needs to be addressed.
And like I said, it's not going to be them deciding to pull the plug. Like, when's the last time JB's played 70 games? Like, he gets banged up. He plays a very hard way. Like, I mean, what is it? 3 out of the last 4 years he hasn't done that?
I'm literally pulling it up right now. So he played 70 games in 23-24, literally 70 games. So he did that in the championship season. Yep. Before that, the last time he broke the 70-game mark was 2018-2019.
So that's what I was thinking. 1 out of maybe every 3-4 years.
Well, he went 1, 2, 3, 4. He went 5 years without breaking 70 games before last season.
Ooh, yeah. So, I mean, anything's possible. It's a new year. But, I mean, he does miss games. Let's be honest.
Yeah, and that's just, again, like you said, it's just partly due to the style of play, partly because, and I pointed this out mid-season, if you go back to, like, I think it was 2019, 2020, maybe a little bit earlier, Danny Ainge was like, the dude has arthritic knees. Like, it's something we need to manage, and it will be an area that will be part of his season. Part of his, sorry, someone left a comment, I was just reading it, part of his career long-term. So there is a world where you could over-lean on Jalen and it break him down a little bit. Now, do I think that's possible? Yeah. Do I think it's likely? I think Joe will be quite smart because you're not exactly chasing anything right now. But again, I do think that just looking at that stretch of games, that December 26th through the end of January, I think that's going to be a really important stretch for a bunch of different reasons.
And then let's pour some water on the silliest idea like ever. At about the 65 game mark, having Tatum come back, and then let's look at the games that he would play and everything else, because that is the stupidest idea in the world. Because I would say it probably, what would it be, like middle of March? Like, yeah, where was the number?
So it's March 10th. Yeah. So say he comes back
in the middle of a road trip, which would never happen.
Yeah. So let's say, like, right, we don't see him on this road swing, so that would bring his first game back would be against Washington on March 14th, right? So you got Washington, then Phoenix, Golden State, Memphis, mini Oklahoma. Now, let's just stop there. Washington would be all right. I think that Golden State's tempo would be a problem for a guy coming back off ACL injury. I think that Mini's physicality and play style, the way they'll probably make JT run through screens on defense could be a problem. Oklahoma will just run him off the floor.
Yeah, there's no way.
Atlanta would be a tough one. This road swing here, I mean, I wouldn't expect JT to play in both of those games because they're back to back. So I wouldn't expect that. Miami, I wouldn't want him playing in Miami. Milwaukee, do you really want him going up against Giannis? So no. Toronto, so no, look, and then you go Charlotte, New York, New Orleans, New York, New Orleans, Orlando. I personally do not see the value in bringing him back, like at 65 games. I get the idea. It's like, hey, it's like 15, 17 games, and he's probably going to play 12 of them, 14 at a push. It's a way of reintegrating him early. It is. But the one thing that Kevin Durant did when he had his was he took a significant period where he was like healthy but continued to rehab. You need to make sure that it's 100% healed, 100% healthy. I'm not on that Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum come back at game 65. I'm against it completely. Again, it wouldn't be till game 67 due to the road swing anyway, unless you bought him back before the road swing on game 63 against Dallas.
Which none of that makes sense because these are like, I know it's supposedly the dog days and teams are kind of, just getting ready for the playoffs, but that's kind of a brutal stretch. Like our end of March and April, there's a lot of teams that are going to be vying for position in their conferences. They're not going to be warm-up games for Tatum. Like they're not going to give us a charity. Like if we had a good stretch of a lot of Charlottes and Chicago's and, et cetera, Portland's, maybe you think about bringing Tatum back, but a couple 3-4 game road trips, and against contenders, you're absolutely insane. There's no way he's playing this year. Like the schedule put the fire extinguisher to it.
Yeah, which in a way I'm kind of grateful for, but people will find a way. And like, look, man, I've said this before. People want to believe in that, fine. Everyone's allowed to be a fan the way they want to be a fan, and that's cool. I'm cool with that. For me personally, I don't want to see it. I don't believe we should see it, but whether or not it happens, I mean, again, I was a big fan of the way the Pacers were like, yo, Tyrese is out. Oh, yeah, you don't need to ask about it. He's not coming back. I really wish the Celtics had done that with JT. Now, what I want to do anyway, moving on, is I want to look at the back-to-backs throughout the season. So we've looked at like the road game swings. We've looked at what I would assume would be like the key stretch. That stretch we've looked at 3 or 4 times now, mid-November to the end of January. We've looked at why that's a key stretch in terms of rotation, in terms of play style, blah, blah, blah. Now I think back-to-backs is going to be another one we need to look at, just in terms of understanding where they're coming from and the context of what they're coming from. Are they coming on a road game, on a road swing? Are they coming on a home stretch? Are they in between? So you start off the season early. And Billy, I'll let you break this down. I'll start off with October, and then I'll let you run through because I've done a lot of the schedule bit. I'll move down as you do. So
yeah, sounds good.
You've got Detroit and New Orleans early in the season. You've got the 26th and 27th on the back-to-back at the end of a 3-game road swing. That's so you do 2 games to start the season. Boom, there's your first back-to-back. Like, God, give us chance to settle in, right? So, Billy, if you go from there, I'll let you work your way through.
Yeah, so the next one would be right after that, not back-to-back, but it is a back-to-back of Orlando, even though there's a day in between. You're playing Orlando twice, and then guess what? You're going right up to Philly, which isn't a bad trip. That's just a short train ride, and then coming back home from Memphis. Honestly, depending on Embiid, depending on Ja, there's a lot of things that are actually – that's like the least brutal of the back-to-backs, in my opinion.
Yeah, I could see that. I think the Orlando, you might be a little banged up coming out of 2 games against them straight away. We saw how physical they like to play. To then have to come in against a Philly team that are going to be hungry. There's quite a bit of new athleticism there. I don't think it'll be easy. I think it'll just be tiresome on the legs. I think you'll see some heavy legs. Maybe Joe goes deeper into his rotation against Memphis.
And then you'll see what I'm talking about, where I mean, like, well, that one isn't as intimidating, even though those are probably at least 1-1 at best, maybe 0-2. The one that is just absolutely, you'll keep you up at night is Minnesota and Cleveland. And they're both on the road. I mean, that's just a road trip from hell. I know the travel isn't that bad, Minnesota to Cleveland, but the quality of games, the quality of teams you're playing, the stars you're playing against, and both of those teams want blood against us. They love beating the Celtics.
So I'm kind of highlighting it like we're on TV and it's got someone doing it in the background.
I like it.
I think that'll be a tough swing. Honestly, let's just run through them. We spoke about a lot of these games already. I don't think we need to go over them. So, Billy, I just want you to give your analysis on it anyway. So, if we move over, we got Joseph right
Washington
here.
Lakers. Yeah,
we got one here. Cleveland will not be good as last year. That's interesting. I like that. So, what really they lost Ty Jerome. Ty Jerome's over in Memphis now. They replaced Ty Jerome with Lonzo Ball. They added Larry Nance Jr. That was kind of like their big swings this offseason. A lot with Lonzo relies on health and fitness, obviously. I think that if Lonzo's healthy, he drastically improves their defense on the perimeter, especially on that second unit. Gives them a little bit more size. But I can see that. I think Ty Jerome was a big part of what that team did last season in terms of being able to spell minutes. You're going to have Darius Garland out at the start of the year. He underwent big toe surgery. He's going to be out for a minute. That kind of can mess with them as well. And then obviously the pressure of being one of the top teams is also a question there. So I like that take. That's spicy, but it's not outside the realm of possibility. Billy, where are you with Joseph's comment?
Yeah, I actually love that because they're relying a lot on Lonzo Ball. Because let's say we don't see Garland until Christmas. You're really hoping that Lonzo can be the Lonzo we've seen flashes of, but it never really sustained. I actually kind of have some stock in Lonzo Ball. I kind of think that it's actually a really good fit. I think him and Mobley are going to just be not Magic and Kareem, but the what is that? The Kmart version, the dollar store, the Temu version. If you guys have Temu over there.
Yeah, we have Temu.
Temu sucks. But yeah, so
Do you
something
guys have
like
Sheen as well or Shine? Sheen.
oh god, yeah, like they're just stealing your data information. Like they're just sending you crap so they can steal your data. Please don't use those companies unless you guys want to be a sponsor. Then of course I'll sell out.
I got Joseph comes back saying I got the Magic being the number 1 seed.
Honestly, if they're healthy, I like that. I like that take a lot. I think
I
Banchero is ready for his throne as King of the East.
don't let the analytical heads hear you say that, because the efficiency gurus out there and are all like, Bam's a bad player because he doesn't shoot efficiently, and there's no context in the world that can change our minds. Anyway, I'm moving on. So
yeah, I get enough of that with Tatum, so I don't want to hear it. You don't have to be efficient to be effective. Efficiency is great, don't get me wrong, but obviously it's about scoring.
So you come off that Minnesota Cleveland back-to-back here, and then you come into the Washington Lakers back-to-back here. So Billy, run through it, and then we'll move on.
That is the trap game of all trap games, right? Like that's the classic. Oh, we got Washington, but we're playing the Lakers tomorrow. Well, let's look ahead to the Lakers. Washington punches us in the mouth. We're down 15 by the end of the first quarter. I'm going 0-2 on that one because I think Washington's going to smell blood in the water, and we're going to play like a bunch of dicks.
Where's the next back-to-back, Billy? Keep us going.
The next one is Miami and Toronto, correct? Right there, 19 and 20. My eyes are bad. December.
Have I gone too far? Yep, you are right.
That's just an annoying combo. Like going to Toronto always sucks, and going to Miami, then going to Toronto, so we're going to be hungover or actually going from Boston to Toronto, so that's not as bad as at Miami. At least it's not 2 road games, but yeah, I think that's a 1-1 written all over it. What do you think?
Yeah, I'd actually be surprised. I'd actually see the Toronto game as a potential trap for Boston just because of their length, dude. They're so lengthy, and I don't know. Yeah, 1-1. I'd be happy to split that 1-1. I would be happy there.
It's just a tough place to play. Nobody likes going there. You have to go through customs. Like going to a different country always sucks for the players, they say.
You weren't accustomed to going through customs. You ain't been nowhere, huh? Joseph saying Toronto will win 35 games. He also come back and said he's got Derek White ending the season with a career high of 24.6 points per game and being an all-star. I like that. That's not too spicy, but it's a little bit caliente.
So I love it, but that does mean that the Celtics would have to be good because Jalen's going to be an all-star by fan votes no matter what. Doesn't matter what our record is, so we don't have to worry about that. But for the Celtics to get 2 all-stars, you probably have to be a 5 or 6 seed at the worst. I mean, you really probably have to be, one of the 1 through 4 in the East. And I just don't see that. But if somehow they can do that, Derek White will definitely reap the benefits of it, and it would be awesome to see him get his first all-star.
So moving on to the next back-to-back, we've got Toronto again and San Antonio in January. So you got Toronto on the 9th of January, San Antonio on the 10th. I think there's a world where you can come away 1-1 there quite comfortably.
Yeah, I mean, it's a nice home stretch. Like, it's like hard game, easy game, hard game, easy game, because you go Chicago, then you go before that, it's Chicago, then Denver, which is tough, then Toronto, which is easier, than San Antonio, which I think is tough. So, like I said, 1-1, it feels like a 1-1. After that, though, we don't have another one until Brooklyn and Chicago.
January. Yeah. Joseph, we just spoke about this. Me and Billy are both really out on bringing Tatum back this season, period. I understand people want it, but to me, I think that's just an app. I think you're asking for trouble with his. I think you really are risking his long-term availability. Just sit in for it. It's literally, by the time you're off that road swing, it's like 13 games or 20 games or 15 games or whatever. It's just, to me, it's just not worthwhile. I understand why people do, though. I understand why people do want him back. And like, I'm never going to tell people not to want to, be a fan the way they want to be a fan.
Yeah. If there was a sweet spot where you can get like 7-8 games to get him ramped up in March that were like reasonable, not crazy road trips, not crazy matchups, I would say I'd be all for it just to even get his sea legs back. But the way this schedule's set up and the way March and April are, I don't see the opportunity to do so. And it would probably be a disservice to him to bring him back because he would look bad against some of these teams. I mean, naturally so. The guy hasn't played in a year.
I got this one. If that to say he's ready, then he should play. I'm against it still. Honestly, I think that there's value in just continuing to let that heal. I get that doctors are saying he's ready, and I understand that he should, like, he's under contract. But why? What are you going to win? You're not going to win a championship with this roster with or without JT. It's too bad. There's not enough depth. You're not going to. At which point, what's the point? You're going to go on to be a second round exit with JT because he's nowhere near his best, but you're risking him re-aggravating an injury again. No, for me, there's just the upside is too low for that to be a viable option. That again, that's just my opinion. I just think that unless there's genuine upside, if this Celtics, I get that if the Celtics are not getting a top 5 pick, so why lose? But they're also not winning a championship, so why risk your best player?
Honestly, you don't know you won't get a top 5 pick. I mean, if you're in the lottery, if they can get anywhere from top 5 to top 10, I mean, that's still adding a lottery level talent to Tatum, Brown, and White. There's not going to be another opportunity to do that. You know what I mean? Like, I want the number 8 pick. I want number 7. Like, that's still lottery level talent to add to 2 All-Stars.
And I understand where you're coming from, Joseph. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying I'm right or anything like that. I'm just saying from where I stand, the value proposition of him being back in terms of what it brings to the team's chances of success isn't big enough for me to be willing to risk that. I understand completely why people want him back, and I'm not saying that we're correct here because I know that there's a bigger crowd that want to bring him back. I'm just saying from my standpoint, just from a value proposition, that's not really where I'm sitting with it. So I'm just trying to make sure that no one thinks I'm being here like I'm right, you're wrong, because that's not what I'm trying to do at all. Moving on.
Another tough one. The Brooklyn-Chicago one, actually, that's the one we might go 2-0 on, right?
Yeah, I'd feel comfortable there, which brings you down to
0-2.
Yeah, that's not working out here, bro. So 0-2 against Dallas Houston, that doesn't need any more talk. I want to wrap this up. I like to keep pods around 45 minutes to 50 minutes. I know sometimes it's worth going over, but I feel like we've hit a lot here. And we can
the last one's like what, Philly and Milwaukee, and like I said, that has 1-1 written all over it, and Embiid's probably hurt by March anyway.
Yeah, Paul George is shut down. Tyrese Maxey's booking his trip to Tijuana or something. Things have gone completely wrong, and all of a sudden the Sixers are back in the top 3 pick conversation. That's probably what's going to happen. As much as they're going to tell you that's not what's going to happen, VJ Edgecombe's probably like averaging like 48 because he's the only one healthy. Obviously, that's satire. I do not expect a rookie or anyone to average 48. Because somebody will be like, that guy said 48. He don't know. But no, it's called satire. It's called sarcasm. You got another back-to-back here. You got Charlotte and Atlanta.
Yeah. That's the Who Cares Bowl right there, because then we're going into April. Seeding's going to be pretty much set. If Atlanta's the real deal, they'll already have established themselves by then.
You got a back-to-back just before the end of the season, New York, New Orleans.
Yeah, and then it's done. Then that's 82 games, guys.
With a lot of road swings, a big stretch between December 26th and the end of January. Some questions over Tatum's availability. Some questions over how Missoula is going to deal with this lack of front court depth, lack of floor spacing at the 4 and the 5. Some questions over how JB is going to handle such a wide-ranging role. And a bunch of games to try and figure all that shit out. Okay, it's going to be an interesting season. I'm excited, but I'm also a little bit like, it's coming close. I'd rather it just be here now so I can start getting some answers, because there's too many questions that I need to answer. And
I think we're going to get our questions answered really quick, because that first 35 games, that's the meat of our schedule, in my opinion, this year. That's where we're really going to know what this team is.
And with that, everybody, we'll be back again later in the week. There will be more scheduled content coming out. If you haven't already, there's 133 people here. I'm going to assume that there's a fair chunk of you that haven't already subscribed to the Celtics Chronicle newsletter. There's a free tier, there's a paid tier. Paid tier is daily content Monday through Friday during the season. Free tier is 1 to 2 free posts a week. During the off season, it drops down to 1 free post and 1 or 2 paid posts a week. I need to get on that for this week, actually. CelticsChronicle.com. Let's go and sign up, have it sent direct to your inbox. No ads, no anything like that. You know, it's just me writing it. I'm not trying to say I'm a guru or nothing. I don't know everything. I'm not in the locker room or anything, but I try really hard. That's kind of where I am. God loves a try. With that being said, make sure you're subscribing to the YouTube channel. Show Billy some love over on Letterboxd. Billy, where can they find you on Letterboxd?
CBO 041. We're talking about weapons. No spoilers. Just come check it out. Give me a follow. I'll follow back.
There you go. With that, everybody, we'll catch you again later in the week. Make sure you're subscribing to YouTube because there's me and Billy twice a week. There's me and Cody a couple of times a week. I'm starting to round out the group, so there's different voices with me multiple times or at least once a week, just to keep things fresh so it doesn't get too boring for everybody. Different approaches, different takes. I'm going to be doing a lot on YouTube moving forward, so come and show some love. Peace out, everybody.